You know, in the Nancy Guthrie case, which is the case that we're talking about today, we long ago entered the moment of, or I guess the moment of, hey, nothing's going to happen here for a while. There will be no news, but people will still talk. Now, I'm talking about myself. There will still be talking, but we really won't be talking about anything at all. There will be no updates. There will be no new news, no breaks. It's just this black hole of nothingness and talking heads. Again, I'm looking in the mirror here. I'm part of the problem for sure. I think we might be coming out of it. Uh, there's several things that are being talked about in Nancy Guthrie's case that uh, that I think are actually important. It's not just talk, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I think that is definitely some good news. And so we've got uh we got a lot of show to get to today. We're going to do a question of the day. Actually, let's start there. Let's start with the question of the day so that you guys can get your thumbs warmed up to in the chitter chatter in the live chat. Question of the day. Now, the reason for the question of the day, this is a new thing for us. I don't know if we'll keep doing it, but I like it. But the inspiration for the question of the day comes from this photograph that I shared on social media that is a photo of our two sons in the temporary darkroom setup in our basement. This actually used to be my office. I used to broadcast and live stream from this office, but it's just a temporary setup of our sons in the darkroom developing photographs for the first time. And as I shared this on social media, so many people, lots of my old friends from high school that we took photography together, and lots of other people who I didn't know shared the hobby with me, said something like, "Oh, I can smell that picture. I can definitely smell that picture." So to get you going, question of the day: what's a smell that instantly takes you back to a specific place or time? All right, that is going to be our question of the day today. Put GF in the comments so that I can see it, and we're going to get started now. In on the agenda for today, we've got 3 or 4 different pieces of information that have come out recently in the Nancy Guthrie case. We got 3 questions. We've got some headlines to get to in the Sandra Birchmore case, in the Anna Kepner case, and of course, we've got some good news. So what do we got? I think it's like 9 3/4 gallons of content to put into a 5-gallon show. It's not quite 10 gallons, but it's close. So stick with me. This should be a fun show. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello there, my friend. Welcome back to another true crime conversation with me, Gavin Fish. I'm so glad that you are joining me. If you like to cut past the fluff and sensationalism of true crime, just take a kind of even-keeled, even-temperament look at the headlines and the news and the cases that affect so many of us. You have found the right place, and I am glad that you have. On my show, I encourage some interaction during the live stream. Of course, many of you will be listening to the podcast or will be watching on Spotify Premium Video. Thank you for that. That really helps the show. If you are a Spotify Premium member, please consider going over to Spotify and following my show. Just search The Gavin Fish Show. You'll find it. And watching over that really helps the show. And on the show, in the live stream part of it, if you put GF in your comment, that will help me to see it on my end. Okay? And I love interaction with you guys. I just absolutely love it. So definitely. Oh, and tell me, this is the part that I love the most. Tell me where you're watching from. I know that, let's see, the proper way to make that sentence is tell me from where you are watching. We don't want to dangle that from there. But anyway, tell me where you're watching from, please. There, it's not dangling anymore. And I just love that part. Definitely put a GF in the comments so that I can tell where you are and I can see the comment. And remember, the question of the day today is, what's a smell that instantly takes you back to a specific place or time? That acidic vinegar kind of smell of Stop Bath developer and fixer as it kind of blends together in a dark room takes me instantly back to the lab in high school and the shenanigans that we would get to in the dark room and the artwork that we were creating and the teacher that we had. It takes me right back there. It is so much fun. Let's see what you guys are saying over there in the live chat to get us going. I got to refresh myself. Emmy says, hey, Gavin. Hey, Emmy. Glad to see you. Emmy says, there's a case which may need to be covered. Sierra Lamar. Okay, we'll take a look at it. And I will. Next month, while Emmy might be in Europe, I will be in California. I will be checking in with you guys as I'm going there. Amy is checking in from Clearwater, Florida. Mary Patterson from Southeast Kansas. Wendy says the smell that takes her back is the wood stove at her grandfather's house. That's pretty cool. Tracy Burns says freshly cut grass reminds me of Little League and Babe Ruth League baseball fields of my youth. Oh, fresh cut grass for me. It actually takes me back to like the hay fields. Same kind of smell, hay fields of my youth. Beth, it's good to see you. Tracy, greetings from Prague. It is good to see you from Czech Republic. Lynn Taylor says, apple pie, smelling it and watching my mother make it. You know, my mom wasn't a pie maker. My mom, though, made the world's most delicious caramel. So for me, it's the smell of caramel for my mom. Let's see. Sharky says, to be honest, I don't have much of a sense of smell since I caught COVID in 2021. Well, that is a tragedy. Sometimes. Maybe it's also great. Jacksonville, Florida is in the house. Lilac, says Patty. It brings me back to my childhood and my dad picking our lilacs and placing them in vases throughout our home. Amazing smell, amazing dad. Oh, having great parents is a blessing. It is a blessing, man. Texas here, Montana here, Boston is here. Far, far away. Okie dokie is far, far away. Let's see. The Midwest is here. Henderson, Kentucky. Tracy says, don't dangle those prepositions. Can't do that. You're right. You're right. North Dakota is in the house. The UK is here. New Hampshire. England is here. Child of God says, comet cleanser, not a pleasant smell or memory. CSA survivor. Ooh. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. But isn't it interesting how smells take us back? Let's see. Clove cigarettes, says Mooney, takes me back to high school. Warrensville, North Carolina is here. Diane says pine trees takes me to family vacations in New Hampshire. I'm a city girl from Boston. Very cool. Thank you all for checking in and thanks for answering that question of the day. Guys, Nancy Guthrie, I don't want to say it like this, but I fear it's the most accurate, was an 84-year-old grandmother, mother of 3, grandmother of others. I don't know how many grandkids she had, who was abducted, taken in the night from her home. And we know this because we've got video of the perpetrator and we've got video of the perp on at least 2 different days. The FBI released these images of the perp, flashlight in mouth, some greenery, some shrubbery, looked like using to tamper with the camera, begloved, wearing a backpack and mask, and Mrs. Guthrie was slated to be at church as the way she always was. She was last seen on Saturday night, having had dinner with family. And then the next day, everybody expected her at church. She did not show, which prompted concern. Family went over to check on her, and she was nowhere to be found. But you know what they did find? They found stuff like this, blood on the doorsteps. And since then, we have been looking for Nancy Guthrie. It's a horrifying, like, I don't want this channel to just be telling horror stories, right? Emmy, I see your comment. Guys, you never need to do a comment, especially with a GF, more than once. I see it. Emmy, that's the third time. I got it. Thank you. Or did I? Oh, I need to apologize to Emmy. That was the second time it refreshed. Okay. Anyway, you never need to do it more than once. Fine. I don't want this channel just to be about horrifying stories. I want to help find Nancy Guthrie and others who are missing, like Amy Hilliard, for example, and find justice for those who we know are victims of horrible crimes. That's what I hope that we're doing here. I hope we're helping. I don't know where I was going with that. I've completely lost my train of thought. I just don't want to tell horrible stories. I want to be helpful. But this is a horrifying story because it's just odd. Kidnappings are odd anyway. There are things that happen where parents are fighting with one another and one parent will take the children. That definitely happens. There is the occasional kidnapping, and I don't mean to downplay it. It's a horrible crime, but a kidnapping of an older person, an octogenarian, it is strange, and it just begs questions. Like the main question is why, right? Well, some people are chiming in on that, and we have some commentary about a motive, and we have some commentary about, do the police know the name of the perpetrator? Or at the very least, do they have the name of the perpetrator? And do they just need enough time to go through all the leads? Remember, they've got tens of thousands of leads here. So let's start with the motive angle of it. Come with me, if you will, over to Acrobat, where Matt Hladek has written this article in Men's Journal titled Nancy Guthrie Update Significant Mode. Javi, I need a take two on that. Nancy Guthrie Update Significant Motive News Emerges. I don't know why that headline is so difficult for me to read at normal speed. I have to slow way down. Nancy Guthrie Update, Significant Motive News Emerges. There. It just took me some practice. It's fine. Javi will take out the mistakes later in post, right? Javi, you do that every single time. When I mention it, you do that, right? Yeah, see, it'll be good. It'll be good. Thanks, Javi. You're a valued employee and a cherished human being. I deeply mean that. Okay. Going to Mr. Hladek's article. Throughout the entire Nancy Guthrie saga, which is now almost 4 months old. Yeah, remember, she was last seen January 31st. Former law enforcement officer Charles Brewer has been using his YouTube channel to offer up his theories and opinions on the high-profile case. You know what? Why don't I get coverage like this in Men's Journal? Charles Brewer has like less than 10,000 subscribers, which is great. Like, awesome for you, man. But maybe he just has more bona fides than me. Maybe he's better at this than me. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need to be more introspective and look at myself, right? Just because you have lots of subscribers, Gavin, doesn't mean that you're any good at it. It just means that you've convinced lots of people to subscribe to your channel. Okay, let's continue. Javi, we might need to remove that later too. Okay. On Sunday, Brewer released a video not titled Nancy Guthrie Case, We May Have Been Looking at the Wrong Person. During the 21-minute long monologue, he expressed his doubts that money was the primary motivation for the suspected kidnapping. And of course, most of us, myself included, have thought that this is a kidnapping for ransom gone wrong. This is a woman with some means. She is living in a upscale neighborhood, I should say, outside of Tucson. She has successful children. She has a famous daughter, Savannah Guthrie. Maybe this is, and Savannah talked about this herself, right? When she did her interview, she talked about talking to her brother and saying, "Is this because of me?" And him saying, "Yeah, sweetie, maybe it is." So I don't. I think it's probably pretty appropriate for us. Maybe it's not never appropriate to jump to conclusions, but that does seem like a logical conclusion, right? And Mr. Brewer thinks that maybe we are looking at this wrong. Many have theorized, continuing the article from Men's Journal, that because Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's daughter and the longtime co-host of NBC's Today, is financially successful and well known, the kidnapper or kidnappers were looking to make a quick payday. But after more than 100 days without a major breakthrough, Brewer is questioning that assumption. Quote, "If this truly was a celebrity-targeted kidnapping connected directly to Savannah Guthrie, why has there been no meaningful ransom communication?" Brewer wondered. Why leave over $1 million untouched? Why create ransom-style messages that reportedly make little sense? Why no sustained negotiations or proof of life? No sophisticated extortion strategy. Now, we're going to continue this article in a moment, but just as a mental exercise and for the purpose of being a professional quibbler, you guys, you got that right. I'm a professional quibbler. I've even got don't I have like professional quibbler? There it is. I've got a theme song.
Professional quibbler here!
Yeah, okay. So just going through the exercise of quibbling to answer the question, why has there been no meaningful ransom communication? It could be because she is dead, right? Why leave over $1 million untouched? Maybe because she's dead. Why create ransom-style messages that reportedly make little sense? Because people were impersonating the actual ransomer. That's one idea. Why no sustained negotiations or proof of life? No sophisticated extortion strategy? Probably because she's dead, which sucks. And I don't want that to be the case at all. And I don't want to say it so nonchalantly and bluntly. But maybe, right? He continuing his quote, because if somebody kidnaps for money, money usually becomes the priority, he continued. But here the behavior feels chaotic, disconnected, even emotionally driven, or possibly connected to something far more personal than the public originally believed. Okay, I'm with you. I want to hear what you have to say here. Brewer made it clear he was not attempting to point the blame at any of Guthrie's relatives, but was willing to consider if someone possibly connected to the family may have been responsible. And I appreciate that because I think police have been very, very clear that the family has been cleared of suspicion. And remember, they're in the suspicion business. Police and investigators, they are suspicious folks. And I personally don't think that it's helpful to be out there talking about Tommaso and all those just seem way out there in left field. And I could be wrong. I reserve the right to be completely wrong. But anyway, continuing in his quote, listen, if the public, including myself, was comfortable enough early on in discussing whether this crime was connected to Savannah Guthrie's fame, her wealth, and public visibility, then it is equally reasonable to ask whether this case may somehow connect to someone else inside Nancy Guthrie's immediate world, he said. Not necessarily family directly, but maybe somebody connected to them, like a friend, an associate, maybe a business relationship, or what about a debt? A dangerous person orbiting somewhere close to this family that nobody fully recognized at the time, because after more than 100 days, something still feels off, something still feels untouched. Again, just for the purpose of quibbling, what am I doing?
I'm a professional quibbler.
That's right.
I love to quibble.
I do.
I quibble for fun.
I do. Just to quibble here just a little bit. I mean, I think Savannah Guthrie and her siblings and the police and the FBI are convinced that this is a ransom situation. Exhibit A, B, C, and D are the videos that were made and published to social media by Savannah and her siblings, saying that they would pay. And I guess Exhibit E would be the interview that that Savannah did with Hoda Kotb. Do you guys sometimes question yourself, like you're not quite sure if it's Hoda Kotb or Coda Hotby? I it's Hoda, right? It's Hoda. Anyway, in that interview, she said, yeah, I think that there are people that need to take a hard look at themselves. They're impersonating ransomers, but there were at least 2 that she thinks were real. So that's just my quibble, right? I'm not saying Mr. Brewer is wrong, and I think as a thought experiment, it's a good idea anyway to think about other scenarios for sure. Let's see. Just finishing out the article, it says Nancy Guthrie was declared missing from her Tucson, Arizona home on Sunday, February 1st. Since then, there's been no trace of her whereabouts. The FBI and Guthrie family are still offering rewards totaling $1.2 million for information in the case. And indeed, just as a little aside, if you have information about Nancy Guthrie's whereabouts or what may have happened to her, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or in Pima County, dial 88-CRIME. And that will, you can remain anonymous and you can give that information. Let's see what you guys are saying over in the comments. Bring up a picture of Nancy and see what your thoughts are on this. Remember to put GF in your comment for me to be able to see your comment. Let's see, going back to the question of the day, Frida People says, Gavin, not a lot of specific place association, but rubber reminds me of the corner of my childhood home's basement where we had our galoshes in a coffin-sized wood box my father made. Ha! I love it. So that the smell of rubber does that for you. That's fun. Let's see. Beth Blessed says, Gavin, I understand locking the case in, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. Don't get the case tossed with technicalities. Indeed. Emmy says Savannah hired a PI. I hadn't heard that information, Emmy. I would like to, I'd like to learn more about that. Dorothy Walters says, I remember the smell of floor wax on the first day of school every year. I don't think that I would have recognized what that smell was, but I do have memories of our custodians. Did you guys go to schools where, like, the custodian seemed to be your buddy? Like, my first elementary school was a man. He was always in coveralls, and he had the machine out in the multi-purpose room, buffing the floors and stuff like that. And then in my second, when we moved to California, the custodian was a woman, and I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she was so cool. And she just seemed to be a superhero, because anytime we needed to be rescued from something that has gone wrong, she would be there with the fix, fixing, like, what's the game that you play where you're tetherball, fixing the tetherball poles and stuff like that. I have fun memories about this. So I don't remember the wax on the floor specifically, that smell, but I have awesome Memories of school. Okay, here's one from Penguin about the case. Gavin, I think they meant to go next door where a jeweler has loads of money and gems. The ransom was delayed because they didn't know who they had until later. Is is that true? I mean, listen, if I were a jeweler and somebody was kidnapped next door, I wouldn't go online saying, "Hey, I'm a jeweler and there's tons of money and gems in this house. Maybe they were coming after me." How did that information come out, Penguin? I'm curious about that. Very curious. And thank you. Um, let's see. Let me go back up. Oh, they discussed it on the interview room, says Emmy. Okay. Tina May says the smell of the high school auditorium, the choral concerts, the drama productions we used to participate in. My son attends the same school now and it smells exactly the same. That's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. Orange Chicken says the smell of coconut from drinking too many pina coladas and throwing up. And, well, I'm happy that it's the smell of the coconut that you remember. That's good. Beth says our custodian and wife and children were all our friends and well remembered 54 years after graduation. That's really cool. Jude asking, would you consider covering the missing deceased scientists? Maybe. Sherry say, I am late celebrating my 70th birthday today. Congratulations, Sherry. Have been busy, finally ready to sit down and relax and play with my fishies. We're glad you're here. And Mel's mom, Not and Littles, says, my custodian was also my church treasurer. My dad's the pastor. I could not get in trouble. Well, there's something good about that. And Sherry, happy birthday. Glad for you. Okay. Let's the big 7-0. That's a milestone. That is a milestone. Let's go to the next story. This one from sheknows.com, written by Kristen Burt. Asking, will the Nancy Guthrie suspect be identified soon? I thought this was an interesting. Remember to put GF in your comment to ensure that I see the comment on my side. I appreciate it. Okay, from Miss Burt's article. It's hard to believe that investigators in the Nancy Guthrie case are moving into the 4th month after her disappearance in the early hours of February 1 in Tucson, Arizona. Now a law enforcement expert is chiming in about the possible suspects. Robbie Mayer, a former detective with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, spoke with News 4 Tucson and compared the Guthrie situation with a major case that he broke in 1986. Mayer cracked the primetime R-wordist case, which involved Brian LaRiva breaking into Tucson properties, robbing the homes, essaying the women inside. The crimes occurred between 1983 and 1986. Oh my goodness. Listen, does every major metropolitan area have an Eron's? Does every major area have something like that from the 70s and 80s? What a time. Boy, am I glad. Now, I know that these crimes still happen, of course, but I am glad that technology has made it way more difficult. Okay, so the retired detective recalled that they went through 4,000 leads to get to LaRiva, who died by self-unaliving after police surrounded his home. Quote, one of the detectives had LaRiva's name as a lead, but he hadn't gotten to it yet because he had so many leads in front of that, Mayer explained. He thinks that the suspects' names are in those 50,000 tips generated in Savannah Guthrie's mother's case. Mayer believes that persistence will be the key to solving the mystery. The endurance aspect of this is one of the things that I really am impressed by law enforcement. I really am. Like, there's a, what's her name? Mickey, hold on. There's a retired detective in the Sacramento area. Let's see. Is it Mickey Lynx? Yes, it's Mickey Links of the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, who continues to work cases after case after case after case and solves some of these cold cases just through sheer determination and putting in the time, right? And Mayor is saying that persistence, that endurance will be the key to solving the mystery. Quote, the question is if they can recognize it when they see it, Mayor added. Being in a case like this is like being in a field with rocks, and what you're looking for is under one rock. You just have to keep turning. The Pima County Sheriff's Department gave an update on May 12th as the investigation reached the 100-day mark in the 84-year-old woman's disappearance. They noted that, quote, scientific evidence processing and digital media analysis remain ongoing, close quote, but no suspect has been arrested at this time. However, a May 6th special, News Nation Presents the Nancy Guthrie Mystery, revealed a possible motive in the case. Expert analyst Dr. Ann Burgess said, quote, well, first you want to ask, Javi, take two. Quote, well, first you want to always ask who's suffering the most of this, who was hurt the most. And in this case, it doesn't have to be the mother. It could be somebody in the family. Somebody, Savannah, close quote. Nancy was last seen by her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, when he dropped her off at her home the evening of January 31st. After skipping church services the next morning, she was reported missing to authorities. The case became a top news story for weeks as Savannah took a leave of absence from the Today Show to help locate her mother. Savannah has since returned to the airwaves as the search for Nancy continues, and that has got to be tough. So that's an interesting Dr. Burgess, famous and an incredible investigator says, start with who's hurting the most. Who's hurting the most here? And that may point to motive. Interesting. I would love to hear your theories on motive, guys. If you have a theory on what the motive possibly could be, put it in the live chat or put it in the comments. Okay. This next article is from Newsweek. It's from today. It doesn't say who wrote it. Must just be a staff report. Mystery DNA emerges as key issues in investigation. Mystery DNA, months-long testing delays, and the growing complexity of the forensic trail could significantly complicate any future prosecution in the case of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Yeah, it could. This is another just kind of talking head kind of thing. I don't think the months-long delays is out of the typical delay. Labs are backed up. Maybe the FBI's lab in Quantico would have been faster, but let's see. Continuing the article, Joshua G. Schiffer, a criminal defense attorney with more than 2 decades of trial experience, told Newsweek that unresolved DNA findings and the unusually complex evidence trail could become central if prosecutors eventually identify suspect. Okay, I want to give you my thoughts on this, okay? A criminal defense attorney like Mr. Schiffer, their job in defending their client is to poke holes in everything, anything and everything. They want to highlight and create doubt in the mind of the jury, hopefully that will reach the level of being reasonable doubt, therefore getting a favorable verdict for their client. Okay? I have watched personally in court defense attorneys work hard to poke holes in DNA evidence. But what I have found is that a very talented scientist with very good communication skills who will speak directly to the jury completely nullifies any effort by a defense attorney to poke holes in the reports. So a defense attorney might say, well, there was DNA from so many people there. How come you didn't test this? How come you didn't test that? Why, Why this? Why that? They will just poke holes in it. And a calm, unflappable scientist will say stuff like, all I'm saying is that the DNA that we found is 4 trillion times to 1 more likely to have come from your client than from anybody else on Earth. There have never been that many people on Earth. They're just very, very good communicators. So I personally don't buy this argument from this defense attorney because I've just seen them fail over and over and over again. And when a criminal defense attorney goes after an expert like that, they always fail. What they need to do is get an expert of their own that will refute what the prosecution's expert may testify to. But I've never seen them actually do that, usually because the experts that they would hire would go, no, that this does not say what you think it says. Right? Okay. Newsweek, continuing the article, has contacted the Pima County Sheriff's Department via email for comment. Authorities believe Guthrie, 84, was abducted from her Tucson-area home overnight on February 1st, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Delays in DNA analysis. Let's skip down. According to Schiffer, DNA delays of several months can reshape the legal posture of any abduction investigation, especially one with no named suspects. The case reportedly involves evidence being processed by 5 separate laboratories, something Schiffer says increases the likelihood of chain of custody scrutiny if charges are ever filed. Well, that is a long sentence that tells us nothing. It's a sentence that tells the truth but misleads, okay? It increases the likelihood of chain of custody scrutiny. Okay. Yeah, it's more likely that there will be scrutiny of chain of custody. But does it increase the likelihood of chain of custody issues? Probably not. Chain of custody, trained folks keep that chain of custody integral pretty darn easily. Come on. But okay. That is one of those sentences that's just like, why did you include that in there? It's a truthful sentence that misleads. The average person that would read that would go, oh, chain of custody problems. And it doesn't say anything about problems. It says scrutiny. It's so dumb. But okay. Quote, any delay or hiccup in evidence handling, collection, or analysis creates opportunities for anyone defending themselves, he told Newsweek. Okay, sure. Investigators have also referenced a possible mixed DNA sample, evidence Schiffer described as especially difficult to present clearly to juries. I find that to be, in my experience as a layperson and as a member of the gallery only, I have always found DNA experts to be able to communicate clearly with the jury. I just always have. Quote, a mixed DNA profile creates scientific complexity that jurors may struggle to interpret, he said. And maybe. Genealogy testing adds another layer. Okay, with investigators exploring genealogy tracing, Schiffer warns that the method, while increasingly common, comes with legal pitfalls. Quote, there are always going to be problems with genealogy as a lead, he said, citing privacy concerns and the probabilistic nature of the matches. Even if later confirmed by testing, the initial genealogical link can be vulnerable to challenge. Yeah, that challenge being a legal challenge, not a genealogical challenge, typically. Did the investigators, did they trample on the rights, for example, of their suspect? If they did, then that would be vulnerable to challenge. If a genealogical investigator was caught doing illegal things or mixing up samples or being a proverbial Becky Hill about things, then yeah, open for challenge. But if they did everything correctly, they did it by the book, what they did led them to a suspect that was then later confirmed through DNA matching, one-to-one matching, CODIS style matching. It's pretty darn bulletproof. Let's see. The mystery around the DNA evidence. One of the biggest unanswered questions remains whether unidentified DNA recovered during the investigation belongs to someone connected to the abduction. Schiffer said unexplained DNA evidence could significantly complicate any future prosecution. If the facts aren't enough, or if there are missing facts, even if the person looks really guilty, the court will instruct them to acquit. That's true. The only publicly known visual evidence remains surveillance footage showing a masked person near Nancy Guthrie's home before her disappearance. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has repeatedly said the investigation is not considered cold. The authorities continue to pursue forensic leads, he said. Let's check in to see what you guys are thinking over in the comments. Let me just refresh file here real quick. Jude says, Gavin, you must do a guided meditation video. I could listen to your voice for hours. Well, my dad and mom would be thankful for that comment. I don't like listening to my own voice, but I've had enough compliments on it that I recognize that people like it. And here's what it is. I've got the baritone nature of my father's voice, and I've got the complex timbre of my mom's. My mom's voice sounds as if three people are speaking at the same time. It's like she has two extra vocal folds. It's just this kind of rich and layered timbre that is very difficult to explain other than to say it sounds like many people are speaking at the same time. And I didn't get that full timbre, but I got a piece of it, and I got the pitch from my dad, which is pretty darn cool. Thank you very much. Mooney says, Dr. Burgess started the FBI profiling and behavior analysis unit, right? That is correct. That is correct. Let's see. Marianne says, late to the show, but the smell of bacon, celery, and onions frying on Thanksgiving morning, my mother's stuffing recipe, brings me right back to my childhood. I'm 77 years old. That is a beautiful, I am 50. I am not a spring chicken. I've got gray all over myself. But some days it just doesn't seem like childhood was all that long ago, right? And it's interesting how sights and sounds and smells can take us right back to those places. And it happens to me all the time. For me, crayons take me to the smell of crayons actually take me to two very specific places. One of them is in the basement of my grandparents' home in Heber City, Utah. To the right of the fire, as you're looking at the fireplace, to the right, there was a place with toys, coloring books, and crayons. And my grandma's rule was color all you want, but don't tear out the pages, because she wanted to see us. She wanted to see what we colored. That was her story anyway, right? And she wanted us to sign them. So when we colored a page, you sign the page, put a date on it, or your age. And grandma just had stacks of coloring books, and she'd put new ones down there, but you could go through and you could see everybody, all the grandkids coloring. It was really fun. And the smell of crayons takes me right back there. The other place is my other grandmother's house in Peoa, Utah, where they had off of the kitchen in their old little farmhouse that my great grandfather built was like a little vestibule that you could enter. It had a glass door that could close, and on one side was a bedroom, the blue room. In front of you would be the bathroom, and on the other side was at one time a bedroom, but it was my grandparents' laundry room. So all four doors could be closed, and the one on the kitchen side that you would enter from was a glass door. And inside that little vestibule, which seemed huge at the time, but was actually quite small. Maybe it was 5x5 or something like that, or 4x4 maybe. There were toys, and there were crayons and coloring books, and we could color in there. So it's just interesting what happens. Thanks, guys. Thanks. That's been fun. This is a great question of the day. Keep answering. This has been a great question of the day. All right, let me see where we are right here. We do have one more article. So what have we talked about so far? We've talked about motive. We've talked about there's possibly a name somewhere in their leads that is the person who is responsible. We've talked about DNA analysis and what possibly could happen during the prosecution. The last thing I want to share about this case comes from our friend Jen Coffindaffer, retired FBI agent. It is written in TV Insider by Michelle Stein. And it reads, Nancy Guthrie update, retired FBI agent shares 4 most likely scenarios behind abduction. Okay, on Saturday, May 23rd, Jen Coffindaffer, former FBI special agent, and she's been on the show 3 or 4 times, I think, took to X to weigh in on Nancy's case. Although Coffindaffer isn't directly involved in the investigation, she has closely followed the case for nearly 4 months. To kick off her list, she pointed to a wrench attack as a potential scenario. Quote, a sophisticated crime group researched Nancy and the wealth of her daughter, Savannah. With a plethora of photos of Nancy, her home, even her bedroom, Nancy was a ripe target for an easy abduction, and the closeness of Savannah and Nancy's older daughter, Annie Guthrie, to Nancy made the prospect of getting paid a likely prospect in the group's mind. That's a theory, right? So in the theoretical wrench attack, she predicted that Nancy died at the hands of one of the abductors, and then they sent ransom demands for Bitcoin without proof of life. She pointed to the Augustine B. pseudonym case as an example of this type of crime. The second likely scenario, according to Jen, was a family member plotting Nancy's murder either for money or because they didn't want her around. She pointed to the Hazel Abel case as an example of this. Quote, her immediate family has been cleared, but could some other relative have planned this? I'm not barking up this tree, but at present many people believe this. So that's the second. Thirdly, Coffindaffer speculated that Nancy's abduction could have been carried out by a handyman or a family friend. Quote, remember the case of Hetty Braun. A ransom demand was not even made in that case until 2 days later. Nancy's case 1 day. $3 million demanded. Nancy's case $6 million, she pointed out. Braun miraculously survived the abduction and was rescued about 4 days later. She was found shackled in sub-zero temperatures in a trailer. Interesting how Jen knows all these cases. Really cool. Finally, Coffindaffer proposed that Nancy's abduction might have been a revenge plot. Quote, someone angry at Nancy or a Guthrie family member perpetrated this crime to cause absolute misery for the family, she explained, or to the family. That means the torture of abducting Nancy with zero regard for her life. They wanted to strip the family of money, thus ransom demand, cause severe emotional distress, and inflict damage on their reputations by publicly going forth with the demands, knowing the ransom demand would not be paid, causing much public scrutiny, which has happened. She continued, they also set up the kidnap to frame, in a sense, Nancy's son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, and Annie Guthrie's, by choosing to kidnap her after a family dinner and with Tommaso last to see her, hoping the public would make the leap to blame him. This would be someone completely obsessed with torturing the Guthrie family, someone who would risk it all to murder their matriarch, like the Annie Heron case. So, interesting. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts on if one of those 4 scenarios, Jen says these are the 4 most likely scenarios, but if one of those scenarios could be the reason that Nancy Guthrie was abducted, put your comments in the live chat, and I'll be going through that here in just a bit to see what you have. Let's see. We've got. Let's see. Frida People says, Gavin, I sound terrible on recordings. Some kind of distortion on those. I don't think it sounds so horrible in person. And I once called a radio station, and the host told me I had a nice voice. Yeah, let's take a moment. This is a bit of a tangent. Let's do some theme music.
Another fish tangent now. Woo!
Okay, so it turns out, Frida, that I have a little bit of expertise in this. Not that I have any degree hanging on my wall or any course that I've taken on this, but for many years I worked in an industry known within the industry as the high-end audio industry. It is an industry that manufactures and sells very expensive and very high-performing audio equipment to consumers. It's It's consumer level. So don't think like your Circuit City or your Walmart or uh, what's a current one store where you can go get audio gear. I don't know. Just don't think that. Think like Elon Musk has a room somewhere where he sits down in a room with one chair. It's a solitary endeavor and a pair of speakers, some equipment beside him, and he listens to music on his own, but he has spent millions of dollars on this equipment. It's that kind of consumer, okay? It's not always just like the world's most, but it was not uncommon for me to have a customer that had $1 million stereo. It was more common that it was somewhere in the $50,000 to $100,000 range. That was way more common, but it was not uncommon to go north of a million, well into the seven figures. Anywho, the reason that you don't like the sound of your recorded voice is because of something called the head transfer function. And here's what happens. In your inner ear, there are little bones that vibrate, right? So your air is compressed and decompressed in sound waves. It rattles what we call the eardrum, right? A little membrane that goes blah, 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 and it picks up sounds like a microphone does. The same thing happens in a mic. A little membrane vibrates, and in the case of a microphone, it creates an electrical signal. In the case of our brain, it also ultimately makes an electrical signal, but it rattles a bone. Okay. And that bone creates a signal that then goes into our brain. But we are not hearing what is coming into our ear only. We are hearing what is hitting our head and our jaw and all the fleshy bits around our ear. Even our nose contributes to how we hear. Even our shoulders contribute to it. Of course, the outer ear contributes to it. But when we hear our own voice, what is happening is our throat is vibrating, our chest is vibrating, our head is vibrating, and we are hearing what is coming out of our mouth and making it to our ears, but we are hearing what is also being transferred through the hard and fleshy bits of our body. That is known as the head transfer. So that is why our voice sounds one way to ourselves, and when we listen to it recorded back, where it doesn't go through the head transfer, it sounds different. And if you listen to singers, and I'm talking like I've heard Billy Joel say this. I have heard Taylor Swift say this. I have heard Frank Sinatra refer to this. I have heard Ann Wilson refer. I mean, it's universal. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice when heard recorded back because it is missing all of that richness. Because when it is vibrating in our heads, that adds thickness, it adds layers, and it adds dimension to our voice that we don't otherwise have anywhere else. That is why. Oh man, that was a tangent, guys. Such a tangent. My goodness. But that is why, Frida, you do not sound terrible on recordings. You just sound thinner. Your voice sounds less rich on recordings than what you're used to. And that's how that works. Yeah, anyway. Let's see. Autumn says, one day I'll be able to smell a brand new car. I've had a couple new cars. I've had exactly 2 new cars. I don't think I'll ever have a new car ever again. I think I've become smarter than that. But the smell of a new car, whew. Mel's mom, I did not watch the hearing today. No, I did not. Jude says, further proof my 2 dogs are now snoring listening to you. W2 Grooms, Gavin a little late. First cut of hay takes me back to learning the meaning of hard work and time spent with my dad who passed 25 years ago in Northeast Indiana. Thanks for tuning in. What a treasure to have those memories, right? I lived in a town where we were free-range children, man. The entire valley only had 200 people in it, and we were basically allowed anywhere. We could play on people's farms and just have a great old time. And there was an old farmer in our town. His name was Norval. He was the age of my grandparents, and he would let me hop up on the fender of the old John Deere tractor while he was out in the fields. You know, he didn't have a huge hay operation. His was mostly mink and dairy, but he had a hay operation to feed his cattle. And I have so many memories of that. Just as a little kid, hanging out with one of my grandparents' friends, just on a tractor, and just hop up there and ride along with him. You can smell the diesel, you can smell the fresh cut hay, you can smell the dirt wafting up, and then going, okay, I'm gone. Off I go, right? Oh, such happy memories. Okay, going back to the case. Thank you, Sherry, for pulling it back for us. I personally do not think that any one person is hurt the most. All three of her kids are suffering, and many of her other friends and family too. That's a good point. Good observation. Lynn Taylor, so does that mean even hearing your voice on your telephone recording is your normal voice? Yeah, that is your normal voice. I mean, those recordings have, sorry, we're going back into this tangent, but those recordings will also be affected, or what we refer to as colored, by the device that is recording you, right? Your proximity to it, the not only the moving membrane, but the wires and the circuitry or the mechanism, if you're going back to the analog days, that is recording you. So all of those add just a little bit of color each stage of those. And it's one of the reasons why people like me use microphones like this Shure SM7B. Is what this is. I think this is called the SM7B. It's a high quality microphone. We have a high quality interface, and then because it is a dynamic mic, it requires you to be close to the microphone, which does something. What is the name of this? It is the microphone proximity effect that augments the lower frequencies. So if you were to meet me in person, which many of you have, you would find that my voice is not quite as baritone as it sounds on this live stream, because I'm using a mic that, because of its design, because of its nature, and because of its close proximity to my mouth hole, accentuates the lower frequencies, making me sound a little more bassy than I really am. Autumn Doyle, you can come smell my car, but I don't have a new car. My car right now, my car, which is the best car that I've ever had, is a 2004 with 262,000 miles on it, something like that, that I will never sell. I will never sell. It is the best car ever. It's great. Frida People says, thanks for the explanation. So do other people have head transfer of another person's voice? Yeah, a little bit. Yes. Yeah, a little bit. Not to the extent that you do with your own voice. Yeah. Anyway. Thank you guys. That was a long tangent, man, but that sort of stuff is very interesting to me. As a high-end audio enthusiast, I enjoy those kinds of discussions, and it has been a long time since I've had one. Wow, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for that, guys. Thanks for that little tangent into my past career. That was really quite a lot of fun. Guys, that's all we have on the Nancy Guthrie case, but despair not. We still have quite a bit to go. We have headlines to cover in the Sandra Birchmore case. We have some to cover in the Anna Kepner case. We've got some good news to get into, but before we get into any of that, how about we get into 3 questions? Here we go.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Guys, in the 3 questions segment, in this segment, I answer 3 of your questions that you sent to me at the email address seen on your screen, or if you're just listening, to the email address 3questions@gavinfish.com. It is spelled out in English words, not using numerals. 3questions at gavinfish.com, THREE questions at gavinfish.com. You can send in as many as you'd like, and they can be whatever you're interested in my opinion or my thoughts on. It can be my favorite color. It could be the questions of the universe, whatever. But, and my solemn promise is I will answer them all, but I get to answer them 3 at a time and in the order that I choose, not the order that they are received. All right. Question number 1 comes from Wendy. And her question is, do you know your YouTube plaque has fallen? It's making me crazy. I love you though. I don't know what you're talking about, Wendy. My plaque looks fine. This is a shenanigans. I call shenanigans on Wendy. There's never been a problem with the plaque ever. Ever. I think she's trying to lead us astray. And honestly, Wendy, you're better than that. You are better than that. You certainly should repent, see the light, and make the switch. No, I did notice that yesterday and fixed it today. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, question number 2 from Patty. There's so many beautiful birds in Pennsylvania. Do you have a favorite? I am enjoying the Baltimore Orioles that visit my bird feeder. Living in Western PA, one of the main things that we noticed is the sound of the birds. I think that it becomes just background noise that we get accustomed to, but when we moved here, it was all so unique and varied and different from when we lived in the West. My favorite bird sound is the cardinal. And the cardinal, I think it's the cardinal. Now I'm questioning myself. It's the oriole. I think it's the cardinal. It goes, how does it sound? It goes, let me think. I have to think about this. Like that. It's like, and it is awesome and I love it. And I listen to it all the time. And I noticed it today. I had gone out for my day job to get some photography for a story that I was covering. And when I came in and parked in our garage, my 2004 Toyota SUV pulled into the garage, turned it off, came out of the garage because out here we have detached garages. I could hear the cardinals whistling, and then I could hear our daughter has cockatiels. I could hear them calling back. It was fun. So yes, my favorite, I guess, is the cardinal. It's a lot of fun. It's more than just tweets and stuff, right? Or back west, we had lots of magpies and stuff like that. I do also really like the sound of a bald eagle. And no, it's not that screechy, awesome sound that we all think it is from the movies. It's like a giggle almost. I like that one too. And when we go out to the lake and we paddleboard and stuff like that, lots of bald eagles, you can hear them calling. It's fun. But I think the cardinal is my favorite. Thank you for the question, Patty. And by the way, guys, I love it when you answer these questions too. So, was my YouTube plaque making you crazy? What is your favorite bird call from where you live? And then question number 3 is from Kelly saying, where can I purchase a bottle of Lullaby for my husband? Kelly, listen, you don't need to make excuses that you're going to buy it for your husband. It is a unisex brand. It's probably for you, and that's cool. Lullaby, if you guys don't know, let me see if I can find the Lullaby shampoo commercial. There it is. All right, let's play the commercial so that everybody knows what Kelly is talking about. Here we go. When you investigate crime, you learn something important. Every strand tells a story. Some stories fall apart under pressure, but great hair holds up under questioning. That's why I trust Lullaby. Because great hair never pleads the fifth. Lullaby, when the evidence is in your favor. So Kelly, I think just to answer your question, I think the only store that stocks Lullaby right now is the flagship Hermes store in Paris. That's the only place I've seen it. Now, of course, because I am a spokesperson for Lullaby, I just get it delivered to me. But it's so, I mean, it has real chunks of gold in it. Real chunks of gold. And there's something about it that makes my hair just flaxen and lovely. So I think I don't think they ship either. That's the thing. I think that you have to go to Hermes in Paris. I know they have a bottle underneath a glass like protective cover. I even think I've seen wires protecting it. Like you can't lift the cover, like an alarm will go off. But that's where you get it. You have to ask for it by name. Yeah, like, can I have some Lullaby? And if you're willing to pay for it, they'll give it to you. They'll give it to you. So and you know what? There's no embarrassment. You don't need to make the excuse that you want it for your husband. Come on, it can be for you as well, guys. Those are your 3 questions.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Now, while you are answering those questions for yourself in the live stream, remember put GF in the comments so that I know that it's for me to read. Let's get into a couple of true crime headlines, shall we?
True crime headlines.
Okay, guys, a couple headlines from cases that we are following. This one from Boston.com, written by Darren Zulo. Former Staunton cop accused of killing Sandra Birchmore denied bail. He does look sad. He looks sad. Matthew Farwell, a former Staunton police officer charged with killing Sandra Birchmore, will be denied bail pending his federal trial, a judge ruled Tuesday. That would be yesterday. U.S. Magistrate Judge M. Page Kelly. Oh, M. Page Kelly. You know, some people think it's cool to have a first initial like M. Page Kelly and J. Gavin Fish, but going through life being called by your middle name is just not all rainbows and unicorns. It's hard. So anyway. Judge Kelly ordered that Farwell, 40, remain in custody ahead of his trial. His trial is set to begin October 5th. In March, Farwell's lawyers filed a motion arguing for his release. Prosecutors filed 3 supplemental memorandums in support of detention, both before and after his April 28th hearing. Kelly cited the evidence against Farwell in her order, describing it as, quote, very strong, if not overwhelming, close quote. She also considered the seriousness of the murder charge, which, quote, in and of itself weighs in favor of a finding of dangerousness, close quote. Farwell is accused of killing Birchmore, 23, in early 2021 by strangling her and staging the scene to make it look like she did it to herself. Birchmore was pregnant at the time, and prosecutors say Farwell believed he was the father of her unborn child. Due to the nature of Farwell's alleged crime and potential sentence if convicted, he poses a flight risk, according to Kelly. She also determined that the context of the allegations suggests that his release would risk obstruction of justice. Quote, the government argues that Farwell poses a serious risk of obstruction of justice if released because there is strong evidence that he killed Birchmore in order to prevent her from revealing his past crimes, and then altered the crime scene to prevent his crime from being discovered, that he often told her to destroy evidence of their relationship by telling her to delete texts, and that he attempted to delete incriminating data from his own phone. Kelly wrote in the ruling. In addition, the government points to evidence that Farwell lied to Massachusetts State Police detectives who are investigating Birchmore's death. Farwell lived in North Easton with his wife and 3 children prior to his arrest, but he proposed to live in Mansfield with his mother if released, according to the order. He's still awaiting a separate request to have certain items of evidence excluded from the case in a motion which prosecutors have opposed. So we will continue to keep our eye on that. Another case that we are watching is the murder of Anna Kepner. Her stepbrother, Timothy Hudson, is charged in her murder. This from people.com, new details about Anna Kepner's cruise ship death revealed in unsealed court documents. And I've actually got my hands on these documents. There are myriad. It's 145 pages, if I remember, going through them page at a time. Okay, Anna Kepner, written by whom? Chris Spargo. Anna Kepner was seen entering cabin 8343 aboard the Carnival Cruise Line's Horizon at 7:38 p.m. on November 6, 2025, according to court documents obtained by People. She would never emerge from that room, and the following morning, a member of the crew's cleaning crew, quote, found the victim wrapped in a blanket and stuffed underneath her bed, close quote. Said prosecutor Alejandra Lopez of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. Lopez went on to say that it, quote, appeared that someone had tried to hide her again by partially putting her underneath the bed and putting a box of life vests to cover the view of the body from the rest of the room, close quote. These are just a few of the new details being revealed in a recently unsealed transcript from a February hearing for the individual accused of Anna's murder, her 16-year-old stepbrother, Timothy Hudson. Anna's body was so well hidden that her brother slept in their cabin that night and had no idea that he was just a few feet away from his sister's corpse, Lopez said in court. Anna's brother was the last person to see her alive prior to the alleged crime, with Lopez revealing he told investigators that he saw his sister while making a quick pit stop at their cabin at 7:51 p.m. that night. He did not see his sister when he returned approximately 4 hours later, said Lopez, and when he returned to go to bed just after midnight, he could not get into the room at first. He told investigators that when he went to enter the room at 12:09 a.m., Timothy blocked him from coming in and made him wait in the hallway for approximately 2 minutes, Lopez said. After sleeping 9 hours, the brother was back to running around the cruise ship with friends on the morning of November 7th. Hudson, meanwhile, entered the room 3 minutes before Anna on November 6th, leaving on just a handful of occasions in the next 18 hours. Lopez alleged in court that Hudson not only hid the body but also destroyed Anna's cell before disposing of it in the trash. Anna's father, Christopher Kepner, and Hudson's mother, Chantel, have both said that they cut all ties with the 16-year-old after Anna's death. Wow. Hudson, who had been living in the same house as Christopher, Chantel, and Anna, was sent to live with a family member shortly after returning from the cruise and remains there while on pretrial release. And then it summarizes the case from there. So we're getting some details about the night that poor Anna Kepner died. And boy, this is a doozy of a case, guys. This is a doozy of a case. Now, Gavin, you got to push the right button. Those are your headlines, guys.
True crime headlines.
Okay, this is where we call on Wanda. Wanda, we need some transition music. We have been talking about terrible crimes. We've had a tangent into the world of audio, and that has been refreshing. But we are going to finish out with some good news. So, Wanda, can you give us some good news transition music? Take it away, Wanda.
Silent on a soft sunrise. Good news shining in your eyes. Warm breeze blowing smooth and slow. Sweet tomorrow's finally home.
Wanda, I gotta say, I think those lyrics are rather AI. Did you cheat on that one a little bit? That is, didn't make a lot of, but it did bring us some transition. I am feeling happier, and with that, I will bring you this good news from the Good News Network. I like this. Owl found in concrete gets feather transplant so it can fly silently again into the wild. Shut up. No, I will not shut up. I will continue, Gavin. Don't tell me to shut up. Here we go. A great horned owl found covered in concrete has flown to freedom after 6 months of care at a Utah sanctuary. A Good Samaritan found him in a concrete mixer in October and called the Best Friends Animal Society headquarters 80 miles away in Kanab. I have happy memories Well, I don't think I've ever been to Kanab, but the name of the place. It doesn't matter. That's a tangent that we won't get into. Okay. After removing the concrete, the team at the nonprofit's wildlife refuge, Wild Friends, realized the young owl required new feathers to achieve silent flight, which is a necessity in the wild. They waited patiently for the owl to molt, which would have replaced the damaged feathers naturally, but his spring molt was not going as predicted. That led the Wild Friends team to take a training course about a procedure they had never done before, imping, which requires using donor feathers and adhesive to replace the raptor feathers. Shut up. No, I will not shut up. Don't tell me to shut up, Gavin. Okay. Luckily, they found a donation from a wildlife rescue group in northern Utah where a great horned owl of similar size had passed away. To prepare for surgery, Supervisor Bart Richwalski kept track of the owl's feather patterns. We looked at his feathers every few weeks so we knew which ones would have to be done, snipping damaged shafts in advance. The imping finally took place on May 1st with Best Friends staff veterinarian Kelsey Paras joining 3 members of the Wild Friends team for the 90-minute procedure. The donor feathers. Oh, there's a photo. Look at this. Oh my goodness. The donor feathers were laid out to replicate each wing so the team could line up the replacement feather, cut it to the necessary length, and adhere it while the owl was under anesthesia. Ultimately, 10 primary and 1 second feather were replaced on the owl's right wing, while the left wing didn't require any replacements. Shut up. No, do not shut up. Quote, the first few feathers were extremely nerve-wracking, but as we got into the groove, the imping became more comfortable and everything went smoothly, Richwalski said. The team told GNN that the new feathers will come out naturally during future molts. He'll lose a couple of our imp feathers each year until he replaces that entire wing. After the successful imping, the owl was set to be released in the wild after silent flight had been achieved inside the Wild Friends large aviary. No video. Okay. Once the owl was seen flying to the highest perch, Richwalski measured the sound of its wing beat using a decibel meter. He determined that the owl's flight was quiet enough for safe release. While the aviary roof slowly retracted, the owl hovered a bit before gaining speed, then flying straight up and out into the wild. What a beautiful thing! Oh my goodness. It was quite a full circle moment for Walski, who had cared for the owl since picking him up in St. George, which is southern Utah. Quote, I don't know that my heart was beating until I saw him leave. I was beside myself knowing that after all this time he was healthy and back in the wild. It was such a good feeling. The owl's remarkable journey has touched every level of the organization. Quote, Best Friends Animal Society believes that every animal has intrinsic value, and the care that our team took with this owl really reflects that belief, said Judah Batista, the Society's chief sanctuary officer. I'm so proud of the Wild Friends team for their incredibly hard work to get this owl its freedom. I am too. Guys, this stuff makes me feel good, especially good news about animals. I don't know. It just makes me feel good. And I'm glad that you guys kind of hang in there while I read that kind of good news. I don't know. It just makes me happy. Just makes me very, very happy. Let's finish out the show by going back to your comments. It's probably going to have to refresh. And here we go. Let's see. Jacqueline Jacobson says, Gavin, the scent of autumn leaves on the ground after a rain. Yeah, that is a beautiful scent. And I'm sure a lot of us uh, share those or memories or have memories associated with that smell, I should say. Lynn Taylor, Gavin, do you have the Merlin Bird ID app? You will love it. I do not. The Merlin Bird ID app. I will do that. Thank you very much. Real Happy 33 said, when Gavin said 260,000 plus miles, I knew it was a Toyota. Best car I've ever had, guys. Such a good car. I don't ever, honestly, I don't ever want to get rid of this car. I've got so many happy memories in it. I have driven coast to coast. I mean, from literal coast to coast in that car, probably 4 times. And with my family in it, sharing memories on the road. It has never let us down. It is just the best car ever. I will never get rid of it. Frida People says, Gavin Robbins, I think the morning or evening call. Love chickadees too. Very cool. Very cool. Maybell says, I love shoebill storks, but my favorite bird from where I am is in the Pacific Northwest is the crow. Yeah, crows are cool. They are cool. Beth Pepper says, cardinals are my favorite. And Sherry says, the explanation of the record versus what we hear does make sense. People tell me I sound great singing, but I sound awful. I think I sound awful. Yeah, we all feel that way. Everybody feels that way. Child of God says, my favorite bird sound belongs to my own feathered children, chickens, ducks, guineas, turkeys. They each have a personality of their own. You know, we kept chickens for several years, and I loved them. I thought they were hilarious. My favorite was Mrs. S. She was Mrs. Eulalie McKechnie Shin. She was she was a I think she was a Buff Orpington. I can't remember exactly what she was now. Oh no, she was. I'm confusing my chickens. She was a Leghorn, and she was just hilarious. And I love their little personalities. That's cool. Very cool. See if there's anything else you guys want me to read. Sack Baby, I'm guessing from Sacramento. An owl in concrete, poor little thing, glad it's okay. Shut up, you're hilarious, Gavin. Oh, from Canada. So maybe not Sacramento. Lynn Taylor says, it would be cool to have a tracker on the owl and follow him now. That would be cool. Mooney says, I'm looking for a gently used Toyota SUV for that very reason. Yeah. In our family, we have 2 Toyota SUVs. One belongs to Kimberly and I, one belongs to our son. They are different models, different ages. And then our daughter has a Prius. We are a Toyota family. We're a Toyota and a BMW family. I don't know. I just love BMW. We've owned 6 or 7 of them. We currently have one. I love them all. I love BMW, but it is not anywhere near the quality of a Toyota. It's just not. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate you. Thank you for all of your support. Thanks for listening and watching on Spotify and on the podcasts. Thank you for your super chats, your super stickers, for being patrons over on Patreon, members over here on YouTube. Remember that you can always reach out to me through my website, gavinfish.com. If you want to hang out with us on Facebook, that is done in the tank, the fish tank on Facebook. It looks like this. Me and about 6,000 other people hang out there, and you are always, always, always welcome. And hopefully I will see you again tomorrow at this very place, wherever you are, whichever medium you are choosing to listen or watch. We will meet again tomorrow, I hope. I will be going live right here on YouTube at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I bid you adieu, and I hope to see you then. Take care of yourselves.